Welcome to the ERP Seal podcast. My name is Tim Rodman, and we are live today on Friday, July 24th, 2026, with episode number 180. You can see on the bottom of the screen there, related links we posted, including this episode recording at erpseal.com/episode 180. We got Aleks on today to talk about this thing called n8n, the letter N, the number 8, the letter N, and how you use it in combination with Acumatica and why you might care about it. So, Aleks, thanks for taking the time to jump on today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so I'm Aleks, and I think on the n8n topic, I think it's a play on words with Kubernetes, because you've got K8s, so n8n. I think that's just...
I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to look that up. So it's something to do with Kubernetes, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And you are, what time is it over there? You're over in the UK. What time is it for you?
So it's 6 p.m.
6 p.m. on a Friday night. Wow. I really appreciate this. This is awesome. So instead of going out to party, you're hanging out with me on a podcast.
Actually, I don't party. I don't drink. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, then this is, we can call this a party of sorts.
Exactly.
In a sense. A geek out party. Love it. Love it.
Technology party.
Technology party. Love it. Well, hey, yeah, thanks for taking the time. And, I always like starting off with any guest, getting your backstory. Maybe you could tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you got into mid-market ERP systems like Acumatica.
Yeah, so I am 22, recently turned 22. I am a proud father of one 4-year-old and expecting number 2 in December. So awesome. My partner and I, we've been together since the age of 15, so it'll be 7 years,
awesome.
Which is crazy to say. And yeah, so I grew up in Surrey, which is just south of London, and we moved around a lot as a kid. I went to about 3 or 4 primary schools, which is from the ages of 4 to 11. Then I went to 2 different secondary schools, which are 11 to 16, and then 2 different colleges, which colleges are 16 to 18. And then my daughter was born at age 17. So my partner's stepdad got promotion that needed him to move across the country to the west of England. So we ended up in southwest Wales in a town called Chepstow, which is where we still live now. And initially, I just got the odd labouring job here and there just to make ends meet. And then I landed an apprenticeship at one of the companies I still work for. There I initially started in the contracts department, where I was handling live orders and essentially coordinating the order from a custom point of view, sending it down to manufacturing, and then organizing the delivery to the customer site. Also handling any bespoke materials that needed to be ordered and anything the customer wasn't happy about, basically. Then so I started there in October of 2022, and in April of 2023 we went live with Acumatica. I, as the young apprentice, was named the department super user. And I thought, why stop at department super user? So I taught myself the ins and outs of the system, and excuse me. And then, so I taught myself the ins and outs of the system. I also learned the development side of it. So I had no prior experience to development, and I taught myself how to code through the T-Series courses, if anyone's familiar with the Open University on Acumatica. A bit of SQL
which recently, I think all that content recently moved over to beacon.acumatica.com.
Yes,
those are great courses. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So you had no programming background at all, and you jumped right into the T-Series.
Yeah.
How was
Yeah.
that? Was that pretty rough?
I can't remember it, to be honest, but I was like, oh, this is cool. So then I spent some more time doing like the Free Code Academy C# course, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see how this works together. And then using that knowledge to then further develop my C# skills. And then yeah, I've led a lot of development projects at the company. And since then, also now 2-time Acumatica MVP, which I think is
Love
quite
it. That's awesome.
22.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then let's go to 2025. So I'm pretty established in my role, contributing a lot to the business. Uh, um, my role starts taking a more holistic technological direction. So instead of just focusing on Acumatica, I'm looking at technology across a whole, process across a whole. And I start my second apprenticeship. This was in business analysis. So really understanding how to dive into requirements of employees and managers, senior managers, directors. Then I passed that apprenticeship, and in September 2025, we had a technology and transformation director joined, who was also at Dyson for a long span of their growth. He joined when they were at, I think, 60 million revenue, and left them when they were at 4 billion revenue. So he saw all that transformation throughout the years. I think he was there 22 years, and he's been a great mentor to me this past nearly a year now, that he's been with us. And since he joined, so the company I work for is part of a group. There's one manufacturing company and one construction company. So now I work for the group and help out mainly with a initiative we have over in the sister company, where we're doing a rehaul on systems and implementing new systems where they're currently running on-premise, very old software, Sage 200 and IC2. So to get them replaced up in the cloud, experiencing a bunch of network issues, whereas the company that I started with, we're experiencing like no issues. Maybe when the internet goes down because we're fully in the cloud. So that's an interesting thing I get to sink my teeth into. And yeah, so now I'm here. I'm a technical solutions analyst. And in October, I incorporated my own company. So I now run a limited company on the side, which primarily focuses on Acumatica development and more recently automations, and where it needs to be used and where it's useful, AI automations. I like to preface that because if you stick AI onto a broken workflow, you're still going to have a broken workflow that just runs a bit quicker and doesn't give you a deterministic output. So
Love that.
really,
Wow. You're speaking like a seasoned decades of experience consultant there. And yeah, you are a fast learner. I can tell that. I love that. That's a very good thing to add. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert. I like to learn. I will sit at a problem for hours and hours on end, bashing my head against the wall until I either finally get through it or I realize, crap, I'm eating into a lot of my budget here, so I'm going to ask Claude to help me.
Oh, I love that. I myself, I like to tell people I'm not an expert. I'm a professional learner. I love
Yeah.
that attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
agree
stop
with that.
learning when you think of yourself as an expert. I love that
Yeah.
attitude. That's great.
I doubt I'll ever be an expert. There'll always be something more that I can learn. And I think
Absolutely.
without the learn,
Especially in the tech space, right? It's always changing. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I look at
Awesome.
it from the time I entered the tech space in 2024 to now, and I'm like, it's been 2.5 years, and AI has gone from telling you 2 + 2 is 3 to like agent loops and Ralph loops and software factories, and I'm like, what's happened here?
And like none of this has been formal schooling for you. You just pick it up because you have a knack for it.
Yeah,
That's
not
crazy.
yeah, a knack, I guess you'd call it that. Yeah, just sitting in it day in, day out, spending the time and learning it, picking up from conversations from people. I mean, in my limited company, I work with
Is there a
Kyle
website for
from
that, by the way, that
Yes,
side
yeah.
tunnel?
I'll
What is
put
it?
it
I'll
in the
pull it up.
chat. So it's AISI
AISI
dev.com.
dev.com. I'll put it up on the screen in a second here. Oh yeah, got it. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so I work with Kyle at Conti Consulting, and yeah, so he's been also a great mentor from the technical aspects to really help me in that sense and give me a chance. I was 21 at the time we started working together, and yeah, the only real credibility I had behind me was the fact that I was a Acumatica MVP, which I think is pretty cool. I still can't believe it. It's 2 years in a row. I've got 2 plaques and hopefully a third one. And yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah,
Tell me more about the company. So you said it's a construction and manufacturing side of the business.
yes,
Tell me more about what you do. And while you start talking, I can totally hear you, but I'm going to close this door because there's a noisy truck outside, and I'm having
yeah,
trouble
no
hearing.
problem at all. So the easiest way to explain it essentially is one company makes panels for controlled environments. Think your pharmaceuticals, your semiconductor fabs, more recently also acoustic panels. And the other company does the install for some of those projects and is the construction company that can install the panels for those projects. But both companies are independent of each other and run separately. So some of the manufacturing company's customers are also competitors of the construction company. So it's got to be like, yeah, carefully trodden.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
heard that Acumatica is a good fit for that. Not I've heard, I've experienced it
Yeah.
myself implementing it. It's a good fit for that prefab situation that you also have something in the field going on, because there's
Yeah.
not much
So
software out there that can do both well. There's good manufacturing, there's good construction, but not much other that can handle both well. Oh, did you
we only
show us
have,
that? You showed us that bottle already earlier,
yeah.
didn't you? Yeah, we'll show it again. There's the
Yeah.
MVP bottle that you just got in the mail. I love it.
Yeah, we were in Greece from the 7th to the 20th of July. Sorry, not 20th, 16th of July. And I come back, so, there's a package. I open it. Oh, it's my MVP bottle. Nice. Saw everyone on
That's
LinkedIn getting theirs, and I was like, wonder when mine's going to get there.
But yeah, it
Yeah.
seems to be a good. And I'm curious. Just you might not know the backstory on the decision making part of it, but in the UK, Sage is very dominant in terms of ERP
Yeah.
systems, right? Because they're headquartered there, and it sounds like you were on Sage 200. Do you know what the factors were for, like, I know Acumatica has a presence in the UK, but it's not huge, and it's going up against this big gorilla in Sage. Do you know what the factors were in them even
I
selecting Acumatica?
unfortunately don't, and we only use Acumatica on the manufacturing side. So the construction side of the business is still running Sage 200 and Equity.
And is the plan to
The
move that on
plan is,
Acumatica eventually?
so we actually went through an RFP process tail end of last year that I was very lucky to be involved in, and we selected some other systems. So
Oh,
Access
interesting.
Fon, Access Coins, and
Ah.
Procore for estimating.
Oh, Access Coins. I'm taking notes
Yeah.
on this.
So I believe it's COIN stands for Construction Industry Software.
Okay.
Yeah, cool abbreviation.
Yeah, I always like hearing what other people are selecting for their
Yeah.
needs.
And the main factor was because Acumatica's construction industry is very much so tailored towards the US, unlike the UK, where we've got varying subcontractor rules and
Makes
stuff
sense.
finance stuff that goes over my head.
That makes sense. Well, same in the US. There's just a lot of interesting things that you have to do financially, and so it makes total sense that you'd have your own set of interesting things in the construction space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To make sure that everyone's paying the right amount of tax and no one's taking too much cash on hand jobs.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like you've moved up into sort of the group that working across both businesses. And so you
Yeah.
have multiple ERPs you're dealing with and will continue to deal with. You're not going to roll it all into Acumatica.
Yeah.
And so that's where you, I think, have started gravitating into the topic for today is this n8n thing, which before we even get to n8n, I like to step back and think for the Acumatica crowd, there's two ways to approach a custom solution for Acumatica. One, you can build it in the framework, so it's running inside of Acumatica. And two, you can build it outside the framework and interact through APIs. Is that a good overview for when you're architecting something?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. And speaking of stuff that you can do within the framework, you recently had a guest on to talk about an MCP server they developed for Acumatica. So I built one which isn't released yet that actually using MVC controllers is actually hosted in the actual system. So you don't need to use any external platform to host it, which means I don't have to worry about hosting it if I want to then make it more commercially available or open source it. And yeah, it's just really cool because you just use your acumatica.com URL /mcp/v1, and then that's the URL that Claude or ChatGPT, for example, call, and it's got that instant access, not instant access, sorry. It just centralizes everything, and a key point for my a key thing that I like to do is centralize. So not have data, for example, in disparate systems, but keep it all central. And if it's not being like automatically synced, then having it on like a scheduled sync if we're talking about different systems.
When you have that thing ready to show, even if you're not going to open source it, I would love to do another Friday night technology party to geek out on that. If you'd be up for it, I'd love to like tinker with it, whatever you built, even if you're not going to open source it, just to give people ideas for what you got there.
I'll just run a Cloudflare tunnel and we might be able to get a demo.
We don't have to do it tonight. I mean, we could do it a future episode. We can focus on the n8n side tonight. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, if you'd be up for doing another one in the future, it could be a few months down the road or whatever. Yeah, that'd be fun.
And that was really cool to build. I think originally, and this was came out of talking to Kyle about it actually, where I said, I'm going to write an MCP for Acumatica. I hadn't heard of anyone doing it at that time. This was February, March time. And then he had the idea of, what if you host it in the actual Acumatica, so you don't have to like have a different host for it somewhere else? And I was like, that's a really good idea. And a few days before that, I saw Yuri's post on MVC controllers in Acumatica, and I was like, perfect.
And actually, the more I'm thinking about it, like we might want to stop talking about it and not do an episode, because you're basically using Acumatica's cloud resources to do something that they might not be happy with you doing. I don't know. There's always, whenever the salespeople get a hold of it and the licensing people, they ruin stuff like that. So maybe we shouldn't make much noise about it.
But because it's a custom endpoint, wouldn't it also use the licensing limits?
I don't know. Yeah, let's talk offline about it. We can talk about definitely. Offline. Yeah, we think it's worth making noise about or not, or if we should keep it. Certain things you want to keep under the
radar. Well, it's out there now, so if anything, they can just stop me from using it.
So yeah, there's in the framework ways to approach custom solutions, but then I think we wanted to focus today on the outside the framework when you're talking over APIs. And I've been doing this myself. So like for me personally, you dove into the T series courses, and I'm super impressed by that, because one, I've tried going through those courses myself and couldn't make it. And two, I've always drawn the line at Visual Studio. Like every time I've tried to get into Visual Studio, it's too much for me. The debugging, all that stuff. But scripting, I'm comfortable with. So like I'll do PHP scripting on my website, WordPress website. And then Python code is always something that I could look at the Python code and be like, okay, this is similar to PHP. but I never got to the point where I would write Python code. But now I'm using Codex to write Python code for me because it's really good at doing that, right? And so when you're doing that, you're in a situation where you can interact with an ERP like Acumatica over the APIs. And that's where I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, if I want to run this on a schedule, I can throw it on a cron job. But there's more to it than just scheduling it, because what if it errors out, things like that, right? So that's where I think n8n is useful.
It's
but tell
very
me,
useful
like,
in that
what
sense.
made you start reaching for it?
So I started playing around with n8n in January of 2025 when I
Oh,
started
okay.
this more holistic technological role. And at the start, I was like, what is this? What is this sorcery? And then I started using it more and more, just forcing myself to use it basically so that I
But
could
what
learn it.
made you before you get into the details, like what
Mhm.
made you reach for it? What was the pain that you were trying to solve?
Automating workflows
Okay.
and automations. That was it. Cost. I didn't want to go out and buy a Zapier subscription. So I was like, oh, you can local host then n8n. So I was like, oh, download it onto my laptop. And the thing is that you really don't need a lot of resource to run it either. It's just very, very lightweight.
And were you
Yeah,
before that, were you running anything locally, like with a cron job or Windows Task
no,
Scheduler or something like that?
no,
Ah, okay. So
yeah,
I was wondering if you had pain with that tool that caused, so you just
no,
wanted a scheduler, basic scheduler to
yeah,
start with. Okay, got
yeah.
it. Sorry, keep going.
The only real programming language, I guess you could say, I know is C#. So yeah.
Okay. So sorry, then keep going. So you start off feeling like it's a bit of sorcery, and then keep
Yeah.
going from there.
And then I start using it more and more, exploring the nodes. And prior to it, I had no clue how APIs work. I tried making a connected application in Acumatica a few times. I was like, why is this not working? And then just through trial and error, I was like, that works. I know what didn't work. I didn't put a redirect URI in. So that was the whole crux of it, not putting that single redirect in. And then just playing around with it. Then had a bunch of different use cases in house that I then worked on, developed, and took them live. I'm not going to quite talk about those. They might be sensitive, so and I don't
Sure.
want to.
But you're
Um,
actually using at this point, and we can
mhm,
sort of, so you start off with the sorcery, we
yeah.
can sort of fill in the gaps, but like then at this point you're actually using n8n for some production workflows.
Yes, a lot
Okay.
of production workflows actually. There's three I can talk about, and these are through my company that we wrote. And one of them was essentially a better OCR. So this monitors an email inbox. It then extracts a document, sends it to a cheap AI model. The AI model reads it and then extracts everything from that PDF document or Word document, whatever the invoice is sent as. Then it sends that output, into another AI model. That AI model then has access to call Acumatica tools. So what Kyle did is he made community nodes for n8n that let you easily use the Acumatica endpoints. So instead of having to, so in n8n, you can essentially call any API through using HTTP request node. And
Is community nodes so like an n8n feature or something?
community nodes are essentially like extensions, add-on nodes that you can
Okay.
download into your
Okay.
environment. Yeah. So you get a bunch of the basic nodes that come as standard with n8n, and then community nodes. I guess you could call them like the marketplace if we were
Gotcha.
comparing to Acumatica, and you can just download them in. They all provide different functionality. And so with
By the way,
those,
this is not me
Mhm.
multitasking. This is my notepad here that I'm
Yeah,
taking notes on. So yeah.
no problem. And with that, what was I going to say? Yeah, so with the
So
tools,
yeah,
it essentially reads the vendor name of that invoice. It looks at how it finds that vendor in Acumatica, sees if there are any bills posted against that vendor. Then it looks at how that bill was posted, looks at the descriptions, how if the descriptions are similar, and then also the coding, so the GL coding. So then it creates a draft payload that it sends to the Bills and Adjustments API. But before that, it sends an email to Kyle and it asks him, "Hey, does this look good?" And it literally has a nicely laid out draft invoice ready to be sent into Acumatica, and then press a button and it goes into Acumatica, attaches the attachment onto the back of it. What I also forgot to mention is if the AI can't find a vendor associated, if the AI can't find a vendor with the same name that's on the invoice, it will actually send an email and prompt you what vendor you want it to be put as. So if it fails, it's always got the human backup. And my thing is making sure that there's a human in the loop, because if you don't, then you might get wrong data.
that's super interesting. So I've been really interested myself. I actually didn't realize we were going to jump into local LLMs on this conversation too. So yeah, this is super interesting.
That
I
one
didn't
wasn't
really
on the
know what the
local
source
LLM.
tree of n8n was. Sorry, go ahead.
That one wasn't working on the local LLM. That was
Oh,
Claude
so
API.
are either one of these local, or they're both just cheap cloud LLMs?
They're both cheap cloud ones. So Claude Haiku can even do the job for them, which is
Okay.
cheap.
Then I'll table that. I have a whole nother episode I want to do on local LLMs. All right, so I'll table that. So they're
But I
both
do
cloud
play
LLMs.
around with them as well. Yeah, so I get a chunk of them. And actually, I came across this repo the other day on LinkedIn, and it was called Calibri, and it streams the large language model from your hard disk via the CPU. So you can have like a GLM 5.2 size model on your hard disk, and it streams that via the CPU. I don't know how it works, but I was like, wow, I'm yet to test it, but it seems really cool.
Is it just sort of like a CLI interface to it, or I don't even understand what you mean there?
I think so. Yeah, I think it is a CLI. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll put in the chat actually, or I can send it to you after this.
You can drop it in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, drop it in the chat.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So then, from an n8n's perspective, it sounds like, oh yeah, that's not too long. Here, I'll drop that on a banner here. From an n8n perspective, is it like orchestrating? I'm in the Python world myself, so for me, it's a bunch of Python scripts. Is n8n just orchestrating Python scripts for you, or is it orchestrating C# code, or what are the objects that it's scheduling for?
It's more orchestrating API requests. So yeah, you could probably do it via C#. You could probably do it via Python, but that means you've got to write code. That means you've got to do all the authentication behind it. That means that you've got to handle the procedures, handle the errors in the code. And sometimes it just takes longer than dropping a few nodes here and there. And then it's like a plug and play, basically.
So it really is a full iPaaS solution that you're coding in, or in a sense.
Yeah. I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, you could call it an integration platform, yeah.
And so when you're doing the work in n8n, I'll just make up an example here. Let's say you make a call to an API, it's going to give you back some format, JSON data, maybe.
Yeah.
And then let's say I want to turn it into a spreadsheet. And then I want to add like a custom column in that spreadsheet that adds in some data using a formula, something like that.
Yeah.
So there's some work that you do in there, and there's a bunch of, you're calling them nodes. Are they like tools that you can call?
Yeah.
So there might be like a turn JSON into spreadsheet node that you can call to perform that transformation.
Yeah, and there you'd
Okay.
write that in JavaScript or Python. Yeah, so those are the two available languages in
Okay. So
n8n.
so that's where I was going with it. So it doesn't have its own language. You can still use a
No,
standard language to do
yeah,
some advanced data
yeah.
manipulation.
It's all
Interesting.
JSON in the background as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And then in terms of building these n8n workflows, do you find that you're dragging, is it like a GUI interface or are you just having
yeah.
AI write it for you?
I like to write them myself, but sometimes it is just quicker to let AI write it and then test it and do the manual tidy up.
And it
So
can
yeah,
flow in both directions. Like you could start with the GUI and
hmm
then have the AI look at it and add in a node, or you could have
yeah,
the AI start something and you'd still get the GUI. You don't have to pick one path or the other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So there's a whole coding level to it that the AI can interact with, and then there's a GUI level
yes,
that you can interact with.
so you can essentially you can download the workflows is what they're called, and it's all just JSON, all just JSON nodes. Um, and when you import that, I'm guessing n8n does something in the background that then transforms that into the GUI that we see and work with.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Wow, that's really cool. So I come from the Power BI background just because it's like super easy Microsoft tool to get into, but this sounds very similar to me to Power Query, where you can do a bunch of stuff graphically in Power Query, but there's M code behind the scenes that you can
Mm.
just use. And so this sounds similar. And I love that approach. You've
I
got
say
me
you can
even more
even
interested in it.
compare it to like Power Automate, but just a more
Yeah,
technical version of Power Automate.
good point. Yeah, it really is more comparable to Power Automate. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But more open in the
Yes.
sense that everything is just code if you want it to be. And that's important when you want an LLM to do stuff for you.
Yeah.
But then also,
Mm.
like you said, you can run it locally. You're not locked into a cloud subscription.
No, which is I
Yeah.
don't know the commercial implications of can you use it commercially and run it locally.
Let's
But
just
yeah,
not ask. Yeah, let's just not
let's
ask.
not ask.
We're just focused on the technical side.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a question of like, how do companies like this actually make money? Yeah, let's leave that for
yeah.
someone else's problem.
But I know that they have like paid subscriptions as well, so it might be like because I'm a one man band using it. So yeah, they wouldn't be making too much money off me anyway.
And I think it comes out of Germany. Is that right?
Yes,
n8n?
yeah, German. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I've
I
looked
think
at like,
yeah.
I just haven't fully gotten into any of these, but I've just done some tinkering with ChatGPT interactions. Talk to me about the differences between n8n and Zapier, and
Mm,
make.com is another one I've heard people use. And
yeah,
one distinct thing, my impression has been that one distinct thing about n8n is the ability to just run it on your own system and not
yeah.
have to have any subscription. So that matches. That's cool.
Yeah, because I mean, I think most of the stuff they're paying for is their cloud usage. So with any software as a service, really, and then they put their
Sure.
own markup on top of that for the product, etc. Yeah.
And then how are you deploying it? Like, are you deploying it on a Linux server? Is it a Windows app?
So it's
What is it? How do you
usually
install the
on
thing?
the client environment.
And
So
what kind of
I'm not
environment is it?
hosting. So they self-host n8n or they have a subscription. So it's really up to them. It's how they want to configure their n8n, and then we just deploy the workflow for it.
But is it like a Docker file? Is it a
Uh,
Linux app? Is it a Windows app? Yeah, what do you
I've done
install?
mine through n8n npm, so
npm. Okay.
Node.js runtime.
Oh, sorry. One second. I'm getting a Discord call. I just turned it down. So you would run it like on a Linux server. That's what an npm would run on? Is that
Uh,
right?
so npm you can run on Windows, Linux. I don't think it's operating system. I think it's operating system agnostic.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So you spin
Yeah.
it up, and then how would you like it? Does it essentially sort of run like a web server in the sense that if you wanted to hook an LLM up to it, it'd be talking over n8n APIs or something like that?
Talking over local hosts, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, it's similar to locally hosting Acumatica. You just go to the URL, localhost port 5678, I think it is. Then that brings up the application.
Really? Just in order, 5, 6, 7, 8? You
Yeah.
think they'll support? Oh, that's funny. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
They probably did that on purpose.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you also would hit the graphical interface just in your browser
Yes.
over that
Yeah,
port.
in your browser.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I forgot to say, you have to. So you can run it via npx, download it via npm, and then if you download it via npm, you
What was
have
the
to
first
in
one?
your
M like monkey? MPX?
no, Nemo Papa X-ray
Okay.
or Nemo Papa Monkey.
NPX. NPM I've heard of. NPX I haven't heard of. Okay.
I'm not quite sure what it does, but I think I think npm installs it, npx runs it.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm not too sure on the Node, on the Node.js Node.js side of things. Don't really use it.
I love conversations like this because the point is not to give someone comprehensive instructions. It's just to sort of whet their appetite, throw a bunch of random things out and put them, myself, in a better position when they start tinkering with it, right? So yeah. No, I love collecting info like this.
And with JavaScript, if I don't have to write it, I will not write it. I don't like the language.
It's kind of even uglier than C#, right?
See, I really like C#.
Say again?
I really like C#.
Yeah, so like JavaScript is more like messy than C# is when I've looked at it. Is that your experience?
Yeah. It's all like, don't like it. It does seem messy. I don't like the fact that you don't have to declare types. So type safety is a big thing for me. Yeah.
It's sort of like, well, I'm really on the dangerous level of my knowledge here, but is it sort of like pre-HTML5 HTML where it's like too loosey-goosey and there's not enough rules?
JavaScript?
Yeah.
I don't know it well enough to say yes or no.
I think I'd probably just let AI write it, and I would never even look at the
code. Yeah, I make a point of people actually like reviewing code they write with AI, because I'm like, you don't know what's put in there.
I've been hearing that more and more. Yeah, that you at least, especially from developers who, I don't know, I've heard a lot of stories where like developers working with other developers now are like just shocked at the kind of things that are passed along to them, and it's obvious they never looked at it. Yeah, okay. Good point.
I mean, like, when I've used Claude with Acumatica development in the past, it very comfortably said that AI invoice has order number, and I'm like, well, I know for a fact it doesn't have an order number.
Sure. Yeah. Are you finding? So yeah, you mentioned this earlier. I forget your exact phrase, but like use AI where it makes sense or something like that.
Yeah.
Are you finding that where it'll make an impact? You can't just throw it at your business and say, do whatever. You're finding you really want to constrain it. It's like, all right, let's make sure we really know what the output is going to be and why we're using you before we involve AI.
More why we're using it. So it's like making sure we know the use case and not trying to shove it into a solution.
Sure.
Designing a solution. Sorry, having a use case that really needs AI, because especially with stuff like this, you're accruing API costs, so it's not free like over a subscription that you can just ask Claude to do this, ask Claude to do that. But actually, sending those API requests, accruing those costs, making sure you're using the worst model that can achieve the job. Because if you're using Fable 5 to read an invoice, that's just overkill.
Yeah. And you're specifically talking about, well, correct me if I'm wrong. For sure, AI is good at coding, like really good at coding. It's been good at coding for a long time. I like using frontier models for that. But you're talking about when you put AI in an actual workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're using it for coding, yes, use the best model available, because I can see the difference from when Opus 4 was out, its coding abilities, to now Fable 5. I'm like, this is night and day.
Yeah.
And the quality of the code, I mean, I'm not an expert in C# myself, but you can just see it makes more sense. It doesn't leave as many stupid comments. It doesn't write like page-long descriptions on what a method does. It's like more human-like code rather than over-eager junior.
Overeager is a really good word
Yeah.
for it. Yeah. I still like to describe it as a junior developer hopped up on meth, because it can go 24/7. But you get what? Yeah, it's not.
Junior developer hopped up on meth. I might have to start using that one.
I'm curious to get your, since we're talking about that, I'm curious to get your take on this slide that I put together. So I've been working on this. I did a Power BI workshop, a 4-hour Power BI workshop that I took to 14 cities across the US, reach over 200 people with that. And now I'm like looking to loop back around, kind of do that tour again with a different topic. And so I'm working on one for AI, like a 4-hour AI workshop. And the whole idea is like, help people learn how to prototype something. So so they're looking for those use cases, like you were talking about, and not just, we have this cool tech and we don't know what to do with it. So learning how to prototype something, know where it would actually be useful, and then hand it off to a developer like you to actually build it, right? And so one of the slides I've got here, I'd like to run by you. So the idea here is that you've got two general approaches. One is you can use AI just at build time. So that's using a chat interface, maybe helping it to analyze a document, or in your case, have it write code. But it's like a one and done, or multiple times and done. It's not part of the ongoing process. And then the second approach is what I'm calling runtime AI, where you're making AI part of the ongoing process, like you're doing with your OCR recognition using a cheap AI model. And when you're looking for that second approach, the way I'm visualizing it is, and you used this word earlier, deterministic. And from what I'm seeing, most back office ERP workflows are primarily deterministic. And it's like those first three boxes. The blue box passes on to the green box, passes on to the yellow box. Like, it's just, you want 1 + 1 to always equal 2. That's deterministic logic. But when you reach a branching off point between that yellow box and the purple and blue boxes, whenever you have a decision point, I'm thinking that's where there's potential for runtime AI. It doesn't even have to do it itself. It could just help with the human in the loop to help steer you down which path you think you should be going down. Do you think that's it? What do you think of this slide? What's your reaction to it?
I think it's good, and what you were saying also good, but knowing when to put it in is also really important. If you've got a simple, if you can write a simple if function that determines whether it should go through one stage gate or the other, then you should definitely write it in code, for example, or a simple decision. And you don't want to send, for example, how can we call it, 5 rows of data to an AI model for it to only then tell you something that you wouldn't expect it to tell you. Like, for example, hallucinate midway through. Although hallucination rates have gone down tremendously recently, and hopefully going down even further. But yeah, I think the part about knowing when to use it and when not to use it is the most important part. If it needs something that's like, if it needs thought behind it, if it needs thorough analysis, then yes, use AI. For example, you have, what can we say? Back to the AP invoice scenario.
Yeah, I think the OCR example is a good example of it, right?
Yeah. So you have like, so you have an invoice received, and the AI reads so you have an email received with an attachment. The AI reads that attachment. Is it an invoice? Yes. Process. If not, don't process it. You can't always encode a PDF document to a base64 string and determine whether it's an invoice or not. So having that a multimodal AI to then actually read it, tell you yes, no, that's, I think, at least one use case where AI should be
where
used
it
in
would
that
not be a
scenario.
good use case is if you want it to read the email inbox and just know, is there an attachment? Then I need to send you this email over here. If there's not, I send your email over there. That's a deterministic logic where you wouldn't use AI for, right?
Yeah. Or for example, you receive an API response, and before sending it to an AI model to analyze, you check if the API response is empty. So stuff like that, where it's simple yes, no, do that without AI. I mean, it needs analysis, but it needs thought, then use AI for it.
And the opposite of deterministic logic, which is traditional computer programming, I've heard people call it probabilistic logic when you're using AI, right? That's the kind of the two different things. And like you were saying earlier, deterministic logic, you know for sure it's always going to execute the same thing and give the same type of output. Whereas probabilistic AI, even though if it gets it right 99 times, it might mess it up on 100 times. And even basic math, right? Like it's probably getting 2 + 2 right consistently nowadays. But I've heard there's some like basic math problems that you run it 1,000 times, it might like give a funny answer one of those 1,000 times. Is that right?
Not anymore, because now most LLMs have Python runners, so they just run the calculation in Python to make sure that it is the correct output.
Got it.
And on the topic of AI, I'm just putting something in the chat. It's called the BS benchmark. So it is essentially a benchmark of a bunch of false but plausibly sounding questions that fed into the AI model. And it ranks the AI model based on how often it determines this is just a bunch of crap, to questioning, and then going along with the crap. So, for example, you ask an AI model, how do I change my tax reporting over the seasons based on seasonal traffic on my road? Some AI models will go and say, oh, you could do this, 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 and this. And others will tell you, no, that's a load of rubbish. What are you talking about? And yeah, I like using that benchmark for seeing the pushback that you get from different AI models. And actually, Claude Claude leads the leaderboard. The top 12 the top 12 models on that are Claude models, and the first ChatGPT model is at number 49. No,
oh wow,
47. Yeah, 47.
Not doing well at all. Interesting.
Huh. And me and my friend actually tested this out. We pasted the same question into me, Claude, and him, ChatGPT, and his ChatGPT went and answered that question. My Claude said, no, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, it does actually seem factual, that benchmark.
Interesting. Yeah, so you've got a gut feel on it yourself from actually using it. Interesting.
Yeah.
This sounds similar to, have you heard of this thing called Pangram? I just learned about this. It's like a detecting AI slop in written content. Teachers use it, researchers use it to detect if something was maybe written with AI. Sounds like a similar idea where you're looking for I don't know, bad stuff.
Near enough. I think the BS bench measures how a model will actually lie or just go along with what the user is telling it to do, whereas Pangram is more like detecting the output in written content, for example.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's these tools that people are building to kind of help fact check and keep these LLMs in line in a sense. That's kind of what these tools are about, right?
Yeah. And I mean, image generation, that's a scary thing with AI. So I heard there's some sort of talks on how they can watermark the bytes of images to inform people that these are AI generated, because as you can imagine, some people are horrible and use them for horrible things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Political elections, all sorts of stuff where truth
Yeah.
is almost non-existent, at least in the digital space anymore, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So like you jumped right in with an AI example with n8n, but n8n, you don't have to use an AI example, right?
No.
Like that was just a node, an
Yeah.
AI node call that you did, but an n8n could also be used for a deterministic workflow.
Yes. So an example of that is, for example, you want to go and analyze data that you have in a folder. You don't want to go and, so for example, if you want to analyze, let me take a step back. So you have just migrated to an ERP. You don't have any of your historical data on that ERP because data migration was too expensive. You could essentially set up an automation that goes through all of those files that you have in a certain folder on your file share. It counts all those files, groups them by customer, splits them out by year if you so like it to, and then that means that you have that data continuity. So you can compare your ERP, for example, conversion rates with your pre-ERP conversion rates. And what I like to do with n8n is get all of the results by email. So I just press the workflow to start, and then they end up in my inbox, and I know that they're finished, so that I don't have to sit there staring at a screen while it loads, or well, not loads, but does its thing. But then get an email in a nice, tidy format that I ask it to put in. I'm not actually asking it; I'm writing the format. So yeah, if I go back to getting all that data, what you could then do is, after you get the API request, use a regex expression, for example, that would group all the different customers, all the different years, and then you could write a bit more code that then turns it into a HTML table, for example, and then send that table as a body of your email. And looks nice, easy to read. But if you have a lot of data, it can crash your Outlook, which I learned the hard way. Even on a laptop with
When you're
32
sending a
gig,
bunch of emails, or what specifically crashed it? Or too big of a
so
file?
too big of an email is,
Okay.
so when you open the actual email, so n8n sends it fine, but then when I'm trying to open the actual email, my Outlook's crashed before on a Ryzen 9 32 gig of RAM laptop. So yeah, I think it might be an Outlook limitation.
Interesting.
Yeah,
But I love your point
was,
about email too, because that's always been one thing that's intrigued me about a tool like n8n, because back to my Python world that I've been in, yeah, I can schedule a bunch of Python scripts to run, but what happens when they fail? And I like the idea of having just built into the tool that kind
error
of logic.
detection.
So you're probably getting some email that's like process records with a green icon and then reject, records that fail with an error or something like that, right?
Near enough. Yeah, exactly that. And yeah, as you said, it lets you literally go then and there to see what failed. Is it malformed JSON from the API response, or is it that the mine's gone blank. It's usually malformed JSON. Or
Yeah,
the
it's
API
something wrong with the
service.
data that you didn't expect would happen with
Yeah.
the data, right? Something like that. Yeah.
Prime example. I once spent hours trying to debug a workflow, and it turned out that I was giving the AI model too little output tokens. So when the JavaScript was then trying to pass that JSON from the AI model, it just kept saying invalid JSON output. The structured output kept failing. So structured output is what you feed into an AI model to make sure that it outputs in a certain way. That's the closest thing you're going to get to a deterministic answer with AI, forcing it to essentially output, a certain format of JSON.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious on that specific example. Was an LLM helpful in troubleshooting that?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it actually led me down the wrong path.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you kind of wound up counting characters or something like that yourself?
No, it was just trial and error.
Okay. Yeah.
One of those classic moments. Why is this not working? Change this setting, change that setting, change that one, change that one, change that one. That one works. Let's change it back. Okay, let's change it a bit more. It was the length.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. So like what I like about that though is, you know, you're telling it to run this workflow, right? And it's just going to run it whenever data lands in the folder or an email lands in the inbox or
You can
data
run it as
lands
a
in the
cron job as
table in
well.
Acumatica, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And then for the record that fails, it's going to keep track of that. Like it's going to move it into a like error table so it doesn't just disappear. And that's the problem with just scheduling a workflow that has no log is if it fails, it just disappears, even if it sends you an error email, right? So it's actually maintaining and it knows what the error was and it sits in that queue so you can go and deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it works?
API services don't have descriptive error handling, so it's a bit tough in those cases because you're just trying to navigate through mud, really.
But even at least you know the data that failed, you know the record that failed, even if the error message isn't helpful, right?
Yeah.
And then you know, hey, I've still got to process this. This record needs to get processed somehow, and I got to figure it out, right?
Yeah. And then you rerun that until it works. So
right.
Yeah. So then you know that one works, and then you wait for the next one to break. If the next one breaks, do it for the same thing, and you just hope that the changes you made don't affect the ones that did work prior.
Sure. Good point. Good point.
So I like to test thoroughly with a wide sample of different edge cases and scenarios, and I guess I like to do it manually. It's always cool to see it running, and then also what I do is I ask AI to generate sample JSON. So, and then, for example, with Postman, sending the JSON to an n8n webhook because you can trigger the workflows via webhook. And then, that runs. And it's really cool.
That really is a very developer way of thinking, and that you're building your, I don't know what you developers call it, test cases, or what do you call that?
Sample.
Like when you...
I don't know what developers call it.
There's some official word for it. I'm blanking on what
samples.
It is. Yeah. But so then they call it where they have test coverage, so that way, as they're further developing their workflow, to your point about, you know, not wanting it to break on prior data, you sort of have like a whole test suite of sample data that you'll just run through it again to make sure it doesn't break any of the other examples. Something like that, right? That sounds like a very developer type of workflow.
And what you can also do is if the n8n has access to your files, you can ask it to iterate through a folder where you have those test cases and then automate your testing, which I know you can do in regular coding, but it's like,
that way, that whole library of tests, whatever the word is for it, that library just you can just automatically run on any new version of your n8n workflow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you call an n8n? Do you call it a workflow? Like what is the
workflow? Yeah. Workflow automation. Yeah.
So like the package of things the thing that you build is a workflow, and within that you have nodes that your individual nodes that you're calling. Okay.
Yeah.
Or
and then the nodes are
Automate might call it steps, but it's called nodes in n8n.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another one that we did was also similar, needing that analysis and the thinking, was getting meeting notes from an AI note taker.
Yeah.
Putting them into an LLM. That LLM has access to call Acumatica opportunities and business accounts. So it sees if it can get a business account from the transcript, queries business accounts, sees if any match. Then it checks the opportunities, seeing if the meeting title, for example, matched an opportunity name. Excuse me. And then ends up putting that in a holding table in Acumatica for users to process. and also amend the suggested opportunity or put one in if there isn't one.
Quick time check because it's later for you. Are you able to keep going? I love geeking out on this stuff.
Yeah.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good for however long we need to be good.
Awesome. Tech party, a technology party.
I could talk about this stuff all day. It's a passion, really.
So I'm intrigued on that example. So you're talking about AI note taking. So you got some, I think there's a bunch of tools out there right now that like I'm using Fathom with Trailed. And what they're doing is they're kind of bundling together a few things: the recording capability, the transcription capability, and the AI intelligence on top of it. Like, am I talking too much or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But you can split those out. And I think what you're talking about is kind of a split out use case, right? Where you might have raw files of recordings. You've got a node that's transcribing it. You've got a node that's
not quite.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Tell me more about that.
So essentially, once a meeting is finished, that triggers the workflow, and then it takes that meeting ID, gets the meeting transcript, as you're just talking about. So it gets the text transcript, and then the AI analyzes that to see if it can get a business account out of it, any link to an opportunity that already exists in Acumatica, then try to match it, and then it posts that to a custom endpoint, puts it in a holding table, and then a human reviews those records in a grid and then takes them and processes them. Well, you should be familiar with the Acumatica processing screen,
where you got the process button and the process all button on the top. And while I'll be able to hear you while you respond, while I grab some water.
Yeah, no problem.
What's the initial meeting app that you're hooking into to download recordings out of?
So you can use any. It depends what one someone uses. So, for example, Read AI is one I've come across. That one sends webhooks, and that webhook can include the transcript. So you just use that webhook essentially and mitigate this extra step of getting the transcript. You can use it with Fireflies, Fathom, essentially anything that's got an API, you can use it with.
And so you're depending on the meeting app to do the transcription, and you're pulling the transcription out of the meeting app. Okay.
Yeah. So the AI model that we're using is not doing any of the transcription. It just takes the text, tries to find records in Acumatica, and then outputs a best guess on what that meeting could be related to, so that the customer essentially had the problem of not having enough data at handover from sale closed to the consultancy team.
Yeah,
which is, I'm guessing, quite a common issue.
Yeah. So you're essentially taking a block of text, storing it as a record in a table in that processing screen. It's got to pull from somewhere. So you got like a blob of text in that field. Are you keeping the whole transcript?
The transcript is attached to a HTML file. It keeps the meeting summary in like a description. It gives you the attendees listed out and then a suggested opportunity. And
that makes sense.
Once it creates once you approve it or process it, it then creates an activity on the opportunity that you've matched it to, and therefore you got better paper trail. I think I missed out that part when I was explaining it, that it creates an activity rather than an opportunity. So
you hadn't said it yet, but I was assuming that. So yeah, you're going to attach the activity to either an opportunity or just the generic customer record, or both, right?
Just the opportunity. It currently only does just the opportunity,
but it could be both if you wanted it to be.
Could be.
And it sounds like, I like that you're saying you basically just take the transcript as an HTML file, because if you try to cram that huge chunk of text into a database column, that's going to overwhelm the column. So it's probably an attachment to the activity.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as you were saying, if you're trying to put a 3-hour-long meeting transcript into one text field, how much text would that be?
Right. And even if the database could handle it, it's just not what it's designed to do. It's going to really slow things down. Yeah. So I like that.
Yeah.
You're essentially extracting the metadata, putting those into columns on the activity or attributes or whatever they're called, and then attaching the file of the raw transcript. Yeah.
And putting a summary in the actual database so that
so then it's less than 500 characters, or it's not a huge blob of text. You got an AI summary of it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So you've got that, like that's actual production workflows that you've got working for people.
Yeah, that one as well, and the AP build processing. And off the back of the meeting notes one, the customer also had a request to be able to talk to their opportunities. And Acumatica now has released their, AI assistant, but then they hadn't. So again, that was using n8n. It would send a webhook request with the prompts to the workflow would fire, get the AI to respond. AI responds, and then it just pastes the response back in for you, and you've got the whole context of the chat. It provides it all the opportunity details as context. It provides it all the meeting summaries as context. So yeah, that's also
cool.
Quite a cool use case. Yeah.
What was the interface for the user? Was it in the Acumatica framework? It was in Acumatica.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was actually a sidebar on the opportunities.
Oh, interesting.
So you press the sidebar button, comes up, and then you can chat to your opportunity in your opportunity.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Basically your own. Now there's Acumatica AI assistant, but you basically built your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's advantages to it. It might cost less.
Well, yeah, good point. I'm sure it costs less. And you have the advantage of like really being able to constrain the context that you're feeding it, right? I'm pretty sure. Whereas the AI assistant is more kind of broad. Yeah. That's interesting.
And what you can also do is run it on a locally hosted LLM. So, I mean, I have a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 in my laptop. I can comfortably run a small model on my laptop. So, yeah, running a local n8n and a local model to run your AI needs that don't need some frontier capability is more than enough for most people.
You would only do that if you were hosting your own Acumatica, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you can do that even if you're cloud hosting Acumatica.
So basically, you'd be running the chat window in your web browser, but it would only be interacting with a local LLM on your computer.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's super secure because then nothing's going up to the cloud, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. You've done some really cool stuff. This is really cool.
People keep saying that, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I have.
You're reminding me of. I'll put a link on the episode to a previous episode I did with Joe DiPaolo. Can't remember the episode number, but he's doing a lot of this stuff, and he, instead of, because most of the people he's dealing with like are on the road. And so instead of doing the chat interface in the browser in Acumatica, he's using Telegram or some other just regular chat interface.
Yeah.
And then that way they can, but it's the same idea. It's like, hey, I was just meeting a customer and I want to create an opportunity or update an opportunity. And I'm just going to give you my notes, talk about it, and it's going to add it to it. But a similar thing, like you could say, I am about to visit this customer. Can you give me a summary of outstanding opportunities and where they're at or whatever, right? But their interface is just a little bit different, but it's the same idea, I think.
Yeah. That's really cool, actually. Yeah, nice. And I also have a big rule with AI that I use internally, and it's if it can access the internal if it can access internal documents, it can't access external, and if it can access external, it can't access internal. Do you know what prompt injections are?
Tell me more what you mean by that. I have the general idea of prompt injections, but tell me what you mean by internal and external documents.
So internal documents, your company file, SharePoint, for example. If you're using an LLM to help you draft documents, put them on there. For example, if you're using Cowork. So if I'm using Cowork, I will not allow it to use the web search tool, for example. I'll always turn that off because I don't want the data I'm putting in there to be out in the open web, potentially. Because, for example, prompt injection. If it goes onto a malicious website because it doesn't know what it's doing, which it doesn't, it's a probability box, it will, it will just read the prompt injection wherever it is, if it's in XML, HTML, and then it will perform those instructions because it's thinking that you're the one that put those instructions there, and then it can leak the documents that you've input into it, leak the data that's got in its memory. And yeah, as you can imagine, that could be catastrophic for some businesses.
And so that would be like internal documents making it out into the external world.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is if the external world is, that's maybe where the prompt injection is. Like if the external code or something is running on internal stuff, that could also cause it to leak out the door, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That I actually wanted to ask you this earlier when you were talking about your email example with the accounts payable documents. I really like the idea of email as an interface. And I've seen some people doing that, but other people are really concerned with the security side of it because it's easy to spoof an email and pretend you're someone that you're not. How are you handling those security concerns? I'm curious.
Well, that's the point of the human in the loop. If you're,
but I just mean the communication layer, like the nature of email not being a super secure like communication protocol. Like if I respond to an email to the LLM, like how are you comfortable with interacting with the LLM over the email protocol?
So that's a good question, but one I probably haven't thought of.
And I don't know the details myself enough. It sounds like you haven't dug into them that much. I've just heard other people they're just kind of concerned with the protocol itself at a protocol level.
Yeah.
Because it's I don't know, email just doesn't have a great end-to-end encryption or whatever. I don't know the technical stuff, right? But like, I could send an email to the LLM that looks like it came from an email address that's authorized to access it and get some info out of it. It's just, I guess, something to think about. Maybe it's not something you've dug into too much. But.
So maybe I misexplained or misunderstood it. In that case, it would be, for example, I think I did start saying this, the human in the loop. So like being able to go in and check the attachment, for example. So let's say you've got an invoice from Acme Inc. for $1,000, and you didn't order anything from Acme Inc. You've never done business with them. Then you could say, well, that's obviously not right. So you'd reject that. If you were to, excuse me, if you were to receive a written email from someone that's impersonated an email address, like I had one earlier today, where someone received an email. They were like, "Oh, is this real?" Like the email address was word for word the same. The email domain had just been impersonated by a malicious actor, and all the links looked fine. It was only upon getting to what looked like a Microsoft login page, but obviously the URL wasn't Microsoft, so like, well, alarm bells. So it took reaching out to the actual person that sent that email using the same email, and you could see, oh yeah, no, that wasn't them. They confirmed that, and they said that actually it had been making the rounds around a bunch of their customers. So there's actually a service that can help protect that, and it's called SendMark. So SendMark are a cybersecurity company, I believe, and they help with email demarcation. No, sorry, their software.
SendMark, like MARC.
I'll put it in the chat. Yes, yeah.
That sounds like a play on DMARC, because DMARC is part of the authentication program. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then it makes your not quite sure how it works, but I know it's something to do with DMARC and making it much harder to impersonate your email domain. So we had a demonstration from them a while back, and we see that some people's domains were like a 5 out of 5 red, and
Yeah.
they could be really easily impersonated. And then
Yeah.
some that were like already had the DMARC implemented and it was working fine.
I'm only recently familiar with that because of spinning up my new erpseal.com website and the new email on that. There's so many you kind of have to warm up your email address to spam filters, and there's skiff, I think, or spiff and DMARC, and I still don't understand. I'm kind of working my way through it, but yeah, it has to do with that insecure nature of the email protocol, which is why they keep layering in these additional things to help strengthen a little bit more. But it's like the foundation is not strong, and that's why you kind of have to bolt on these other things to make email a little bit better, I think, right? Something like that.
So we've used Mesh before, and when we initially turned Mesh on, it dropped our email traffic by like 80%, because all of the incoming stuff was just being spam, 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 spam.
Yeah.
Even legitimate emails from the sister company to the other company were being able to spam. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Got whitelist that domain.
But did I hear right that we don't have to dive any more into the security side because I don't understand it well enough, but
I don't
did I hear you right that on the accounts payable flow that you're doing, the person approves it via email, or they go into an app?
Via email.
Yeah. So they're sending a message that's like approved or clicking a button or something that causes it to go through. Okay.
Yeah. And on the flip side, the one for Acumatica only has access to a certain endpoint to put the record in, and that is essentially just a holding table for that data from the from the meeting notes. So yeah, two different clients wanted it different ways.
Makes sense. No, that's cool. That's really neat that you're working on all these use cases. I think that sounds like fun stuff. That sounds like really fun stuff. And I think, I think it's going to be really, this is total, I don't know, theory here, but it'll be interesting to see how the frontier models go. Like I just saw someone on LinkedIn this morning. I haven't even looked into it yet. What was it? I have to go find my own comment on it. They're talking about, I guess Codex just dropped something this week where
and then it's
like for small business or something.
Real-time text so real-time speech processing is something that OpenAI dropped this week. So you can
that's something else. Yeah, they're dropping a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
The thing I'm talking about is, what do they call it? OpenAI. The headline was OpenAI just made governance the product, and ChatGPT for small business. And it's got Intuit integration, Shopify integrations. It's going to be really interesting to see like how fast, I should say, both Anthropic and OpenAI build in n8n type tooling into their products. They could become iPad solutions. I mean, they already kind of are, right?
They've got workflow builders in the background. I know Claude has it on the Claude console where you can deploy your own agents and build workflows in there. ChatGPT drops it a while back, but the thing with those is it's just all the API costs. And if you're using, because I think you're only allowed, I think you have to use AI with tools to get the same outcome you could get with just a deterministic regular automation. So
that's a good point.
Choose n8n over expensive solution.
But I do still really like that because in the prototyping world, it allows really non-technical people to build workflows that, yes, are more at least they see the light of day And now they can take that and hand it to you and be like, hey, instead of spending $200 a month on token costs, can you run this on n8n for $5 a month or something, right? But at least there's
or with the local LLM zero.
Yeah, well, you got some hardware costs. That's where I came up with the $5, right? But yeah, you can actually take it and run it on a very much cheaper infrastructure. But the struggle for someone who knows how to build it like you is, what are the use cases, right? So I do like that OpenAI and Anthropic are giving users these tools, but as you said, they're expensive to use. But I think they're great prototyping tools, right?
Yeah.
They're just not good for industrial strength ongoing workflows, right? Yeah.
Depends if you want to use them. If you've got the money to burn, then
if you have the budget for it, keep going for it, right? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And even in some companies, like, token spend is almost a rite of passage. It's like, people admire me the more money I spend on tokens. There's businesses like that right now. Get more respect for me.
Yeah. Ooh, just hit my mic there.
Well, this is awesome. I really appreciate diving into details. I've been wanting to learn more about n8n and where I would use it. I was thinking of it more closer to a cron job with error handling than I was thinking of it as a full iPaaS type of thing. And so, yeah, you really whet my appetite for wanting to dig into it more and giving me things to think about as I dig into it. So I really appreciate it.
It's very flexible, and I like working with it. Of course, it's not perfect. Everything has its quirks, everything has its limitations. But if you learn to use it, you know what its strengths are and what its limitations are.
You mentioned the Acumatica node that Kyle built. Do you know, is that an open source thing, or is that something you guys are keeping?
Yeah. So he.
Do you have a link for that?
It's on the community. I'll put the community. I'll get the community posts.
See if you can find that. I'll drop it in on the episode related links. And then I am looking at the time. I've got a 4.5-hour drive ahead of me this afternoon. So, and you can give some closing thoughts after this, but maybe we could wrap it up.
Yeah, no problem.
Normally, if I didn't have the 4.5-hour drive ahead of me, I'd totally be up for continuing to geek out. But
yeah, no, I don't think I have any closing thoughts.
I feel like we milked it pretty good. We kind of we did a pretty comprehensive job on it, I think.
Got a lot out, yeah. But I think even with that, I think we've only just started scratching the surface. I think, there's plenty more use cases to be built. And I think on n8n, there's something like 85,000 templates that you can use, which is crazy.
Yeah, it all comes down to use cases, right? And then it all comes down to what use cases are you allowed to talk about, right? And that's always, you got to run it through that filter. But definitely very useful tech. And it sounds like you've been applying it in a lot of different ways. So that's really cool.
Yeah, this definitely is. Yeah, really cool.
Before we wrap it up, just a heads up, when we end it, it's going to play that 30-second outro, but I did still want to ask you about two things. One was the MCP server that we don't want to talk about more yet, and then something else. So stay on is my point. After we wrap it up. Any other final like n8n things, or like cool? How can people reach out to you if they want help working on these workflows?
So I'll put my email in the chat. So feel free to
drop that on the screen as well.
Yeah, please. So if they want to reach out to me on there, on LinkedIn, I'll put my links in the chat as well.
I just dropped the email up on the screen there. Aleks, ALEKS at AISIDEV.com.
Yeah.
So anyone looking for help with these custom API type situations, of which, I don't know, I just think these things are going to explode. I think AI is making these kind of custom workflows explode in companies, because when it comes to incorporating LLMs, whether it's a smart one, a not so smart one, into these workflows, the frameworks right now are custom. And I think everyone's trying to build that like platform that everyone's going to use, but I don't think it exists yet. And I don't know if it's ever going to exist. It depends on the tools that, or not the tools. It depends, I think, on the platforms that you're using, ERP wise, data warehouse wise, those types of things. And definitely right now it's all about custom AI builds, I think. And that's exactly the stuff that you're working on. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting space to be in, and I'm quite happy to be in it.
Any other closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, not at all. No. Yeah, feel free to get in touch. And yeah, thanks, Tim.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having a tech party on a Friday night there in the UK. All right, well, I'll wrap it up here, but again, stay on because I had a couple things I want to talk to you about afterwards.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thanks again. See ya.
Oh, thanks, Tim.